the subject we're going to talk about tonight. The purpose of the gathering is purely informational. We hope that when you leave here tonight that you'll have enough information about frac sanding and frac sanding mining to make an informed decision when you call your representatives, mainly your board and the various commissions. So, of course, what we feel paramount important is that everybody sign up and sign our petition so we can let the board know that there's some opposition out there. So that's what I got to say. Rod's got a few words to say, and then we'll go on to Tim.
Hi everybody, glad to see all the familiar faces around here. So if you want it, it's up to you. Just a second, Rod. What you got? Let's get the mic here. It won't work. Can people hear?
Test. Just kind of got to hold it right.
I'm Rod Fischler.
Can you hear me now?
Let's sing this thing. Okay, I'm Rod Fischler. I'm glad to see all the familiar faces around here. It's nice to see everybody here. We're going to show a short 15-minute video with Roger here. We're going to be opening this up after that for some discussion. We're going to try and keep this down just to the civil, context, I guess, of what we're going to talk about. We don't want to get out of line. It's just an informational meeting, and we'll go from there.
Last weekend, we collected some frac sand. Below the bluffs, there's a band of soft white stone. You can crush it with your hand. This is frac sand. The sandstone is porous, like a sponge. And the sand is not like regular sand. The granules are transparent. It's much smaller and very round. Moving frac sand creates dust so fine it's invisible, unless you look closely.
There has always been a sand mine up until about, I understand, 1982 or 1992 was owned by one person, and he kind of worked with people, and it was just another local business. 7 years ago, it was 5 trucks and a hole in the ground that they took some sand out of. Now it is not that at all.
Open pit mines have usually been for gravel and sand for roads and rock for construction. They haven't been on this industrial scale.
The intensity of the operation is mind-boggling. We have tons of hundreds and thousands of tons of material leaving the site on a continuous 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis.
When you think of a business coming in or somebody building something, there's always kind of a mess, you know, while things are getting going. And I think it's just our nature to look at something and think that it's going to get better. You know, once they get done, it's going to be built and it's going to look good. But with mining, it's the opposite. It continues to get worse and worse.
Well, for me, the trucks have been an issue almost from day one. They are huge, huge trucks filled with this heavy, heavy sand, and they have been very remiss about pulling the hoods over the trucks. Now, that is not an option. That is what they are required to do.
It feels like you're in an industrial site. So there's lots of noise, trucks backing up, radios, trains backing up, crashing into one another, squealing wheels. It goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only time it's not running is if something goes wrong. Like sometimes there's too much sand on the railroad tracks, and there is a device of some kind of car that sweeps it, and that is very noisy. It overwhelms you. There are supposedly going to be 80 trucks a day going in each direction. These are not just pickup trucks. These are grain-sized semis.
I tell you, sometimes when the trains run through town at 60 miles an hour past that loading station, you get a huge cloud of dust. Just come scattering up all over the place as those trains rush through here, and you just wonder, okay, what am I breathing?
Just there's sand everywhere. There's fine sand all over the sides of the road, and it's like constant. Even when they go with the street sweepers, they can't get it off.
A lot of times the gates don't shut, and so you see a truck going down the street, and there's this little trail of sand dumping out.
Probably over the past 10 years, the people of Maiden Rock have been exposed to quite a bit of silica sand inhalation. You can't help it.
I don't know a lot about the ramifications of silicosis, but I know it's not something that I want in the air. And I don't want to be breathing it in. And I have children that come here and grandchildren, and I don't want them to be exposed to it. And I'm afraid to let my grandchildren go even anywhere but the backyard.
This operation at the present time uses about 1.25 million gallons a day extracted from deep, high-capacity wells to wash that sand. Most of that 1.25 million gallons gets dumped back into the earth right at the surface. And they wash water, goes into settling ponds, and whatever they wash ends up in the groundwater.
I personally saw water samples at a meeting that were presented that were really dark in color and full of sediment from someone's private well.
Realizing the industrial nature of this thing is one of the biggest differences between that and the other non-metallic mining that we have here. And there are unusual events that happen in these types of industrial operations. I was out on Lake Pepin one July 4th in a boat waiting for the fireworks, and there happened to be a malfunction at the mine, and a huge cloud of dust came out into the middle of the lake. You know, and you know, that isn't a normal operation, but those things happen, and so there's always going to be those kinds of things that you deal with an operation of this size.
We've seen the taxes that the sand mine pays, and we can say that between a couple of households in the area, we pay as much or more than the whole sand mine does for property tax. And then there's personal property tax, and they do pay a fair amount more for personal property tax, but that doesn't come to us in this little village. That goes to the state So there's sort of this idea that they're really supporting the village with taxes on what they're doing, and they're not. We're paying way more in property tax as individuals than they are as a corporation.
We had a bed and breakfast here at one time that was very successful, and next thing you know, the mine comes in and people are trying to rent rooms, and here's this industrial operation across the street, and they're here for quiet and rest, and we don't have a B&B anymore. But now you try to sell that place. You know, who's going to want to buy it, live next door to a mine?
None of the people that run the sand mine even live in Maiden Rock or even anywhere near, which I think is pretty interesting. So there's no investment. I don't see that there's any personal investment in the village.
This is definitely a big corporation. This one is out of Ohio. The previous ones that opened were from the south and perhaps even offshore. It is a huge industrial operation, and as I said, it feels like you're in an industrial site.
If I owned the mine, I would definitely not live next door to it. No, I would want to have it in someone else's backyard. We put basically our savings, all of our savings into this. And I'm not sure, knowing what I know now about the mine right next door, if I would have done that. I probably would have looked at other properties or other villages or other areas.
We actually lose property tax base because the sand mine makes it a less attractive place to be.
The mine does a lot more taking than giving. They are literally stripping us of an incredible natural resource and hauling away all the money along with the sand.
If I lived next to the site of a proposed mine, I would be talking to the county board, my township, my village, my city, whatever it is, to prevent permits to go ahead and mine.
And get moving right now. Organized. See, it kind of, I think we did a really good job, but it was so shocking that it happened so suddenly that people didn't even really know what to think. Talk to people and get media attention and say, look, is this what you want?
There's a few more questions. Yep.
Our county has roughly 40 gravel pits. These are just little spots where they take out sand and gravel. Usually they're near the river and it's for local use, and it's necessary. The sand mines that we're talking about now are actually quarries. They're taking sandstone hills, a completely different substance. This is a 480-acre site, and they're going to mine 250 or 280, between 250 and 280 acres of this site. They're going to remove as hills that are going to be permanently removed. You're up against big bucks because this mine behind me is legally limited to 600,000 tons per year. But multiply 600,000 tons per year times, let's say, a minimum of $300 a ton. You're dealing with that kind of money. They don't commit to anything. Nothing is ever put in writing. Like people thought, a lot of people thought there were going to be 60 jobs, but it was 16. What you lose is air quality, water quality and quantity, recreational aspects of the community are damaged, property values. But the big thing is you're removing the hills that you can't replace. You'll never replace those hills. You can't even come close to replacing what those hills do. They're a huge water manufacturing factory that Mother Nature gave us, and they're gone. You can't redo it.
My wife and I, when we built our house, this was a family farm. My folks owned the farm, and then we owned part of the farm down there. We had choices on where to build our house. We didn't have to build, but we thought about it, and we picked the location we did, and it's close to the neighbor's property that the sand mine is now on. It wasn't there when we built the house. There was no talk of sand mine. And we talked about it, and said, well, maybe someday somebody will sneak a road in on the other side of the hill and build some houses back here. Well, it's their land, they can build houses, you know. There was no way to ever envision that they would be removing the hill. That is just not something a person would ever think of. And so, if we had to do it over again, we certainly would not build a house where it is.
That's all.
So just to give you an update, what's going on in Bridgeport Township, Pattison Sand Company from Clayton is requesting permission to set up mining in Bridgeport Township. The mining, in order to begin the mining process, Patterson has to get permits from the township. And this process, permit issuance will most likely begin possibly Wednesday night at the board meeting. So I think maybe everybody interested should attend there and give their opinion also. Okay, so it's really important at this time to mention also again the petitions that are going around. So I see some of the board members are here, and I'm sure they're also come to the summation that there are people who are concerned about this, and they should pay attention also. So at this time, there's Tim is going to give us I believe Tim is on this now.
Yes, Tim.
Yeah, Tim is going to tell us about some upcoming meetings and announcements.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. You got those pictures ready, Roger? Yeah, my name is Tim Zung, president of the Friends of the Lower Wisconsin Riverway, also known as FLOW for short. And like the segment there, where I think the title of it is that the hills are gone. And that's the point I try to emphasize for you all, that in 1989 the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway was established with the intent of maintaining the natural rural character of the riverway. And portions of this proposal for this mine will be actually within the boundaries of the riverway. Also, you're probably familiar with our first state scenic byway, Highway 60, has got that designation. From Lodi to Prairie du Chien. And again, the intent was, for people to enjoy and for local authorities to maintain the scenic nature of the countryside. And also there's the Fox, Wisconsin Heritage Parkway, which is actually federal money and so forth from Green Bay to the Mississippi, following the route of Marquette and Joliet, has been established, again with the intent of protecting and preserving what we have here along the lower Wisconsin Riverway. So there are limitations with laws that any of these entities can deal with. So again, intent can be determined many different ways, which is why we're all here. Conditional use permits, I'm not an attorney, but you know, the reason why you have to get a conditional use permit in the first place is because something that doesn't automatically comply with a zoning ordinance and or the comprehensive plan, sometimes referred to as a smart growth plan. My experience in the past, observing through the years different you know, controversial things that come up, is that local authorities, first typically the Plan Commission, will sit down and very tediously go through the application and compare it line by line with what the Smart Growth Plan and the zoning ordinance says. And as you go through, you just kind of check it off one side or other. Yes, this complies. No, it doesn't. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And you get to the end and see how it weighs out there. And the other reason for conditional use permit hearings is so that neighbors can weigh in on their thoughts about it and so forth. So that's, again, not a legal explanation, but my understanding of the reason why we go through the process. And how any legal entity can just make a decision without going through a process, an intense process, when there are concerns noted as there is here, you know, is beyond me. But I like to believe, well, first of all, I know for a fact that, you know, politics-wise, there are people on the left, people on the right, independents are all involved with their concerns about this mine going into place. It isn't just a whole bunch of, you know, bleeding heart liberals from Madison or something, you know. It's all kinds of people are involved that, again, want to see the process done properly. This, some of these pictures here were at the town board meeting, and mainly in case you weren't there, just to show, you know, the interest at the time and you know, how crowded it was and so forth.
Plan Commission.
The Planning Commission.
I'm sorry, Plan Commission hearing type meeting it was. So indeed, there's interest on both sides. And that's where I'm getting to finish my point here. Go through the intensive process, and at the end of that process, we can agree to disagree on things, but at least we're all, you know, working together to do it legally, to do it properly, and then proceed from there. But my pitch that I kind of made here too is, you know, I personally have had the honor of helping escort people from all over the world down into your territory down here. You know, from Australia and Austria and even Alabama. That's foreign. Anyway, didn't speak English very well from Alabama. But the point is, the tourism industry is going to continue to grow as there's less and less places like you have here. There are a few people are going to be making a lot of money if this project goes into place. But what you have here already, folks, with the hills and the valley and the winding road, is priceless. Priceless means there's no amount of money in the world that could purchase what you already have. And it's just going to get more valuable as time goes on. So you're welcome to disagree with me on anything I say, but that's the point I'm trying to make. When you just live here all the time, you don't really notice probably that the rest of the world is not like this. People have moved here, built their dream homes, retirement homes, so they can sit out in the backyard and look out at the very rural, scenic, you know, natural area and everything. And again, with these conditional use permits through the years, people come in complaining about the smell from a farm or something. You know, after they move somewheres, what do farmers say? Well, who was here first? And somebody moves in close by to a gun club or something and complain. And the gun club says, well, who was here first? So to have an out-of-state mining company come in next to people who were here first, I think that weighs in a lot on the thinking on granting a conditional use permit or not. And there's there are areas, we need frac sand and so forth at this point in time until we get more energy independent and so forth. But there are other places that just don't jump out to everybody as you're driving by on the scenic byway or trying to have a wilderness camping experience on a river or something like that. So I've talked longer than I was going to already, Arnie, so who's next here?
Roger is going to talk to us on zoning.
Good evening and thanks for coming. I'm Roger Reynolds and I grew up, I now live near Spring Green and Lone Rock. There, now it's on, there we go. I now live by Spring Green, Lone Rock area on the Wisconsin River, but I grew up in Crawford County on County E between Seneca and Lynxville. If many of you know that road, you go up out of Lynxville on County E, there's the very sharp corner, you get to the top of the hill, and about a mile inland from the top of the hill, I grew up on a farm there. So I grew up in this area, and I just wanted to bring that out. But the zoning and the comprehensive plan, the smart growth plan, you have, and I see there are, on Friday I attended some of the Bridgeport board members and zoning commission members, planning commission members, toured the sand mine at Boscobel. And I was there in audience, and I see a number of people who I saw that day are here tonight. They are your elected representatives. They don't represent a sand mine or 4 to 5 people in the town of Bridgeport. They represent all the people of Bridgeport. And I know a number of you here are from Bridgeport Township tonight. So they are your elected officials. I did not go through the entire zoning ordinances, or whatever it's called, for Bridgeport. I did not go through your entire comprehensive plan, but I went through parts of it. And there are some things that say they represent you, and as Tim mentioned, typically when something comes in, first of all, when something is being applied for a conditional use permit, it means it doesn't automatically fit into your zoning. That means they can deny it. And if I say anything that's not quite right, I'm not the expert, but they are your elected experts. You do not have to have the answers, you have the questions. That's why you elected representatives who read these things that aren't that fun to read, and who are supposed to evaluate them, and they have access to Bridgeport's legal advising. So that is their job. That is why they are elected. So ask them to do what you have elected them and what they've been appointed to do. That is their job. You only have to come up with the questions. Now, I'm going to bring out a few questions that come to my mind. And actually, let me go through a little bit of your zoning. One of the parts of zoning, it states that they are to promote the health, safety, morals, prosperity, aesthetics, and general welfare of the town. They are to retain the present rural nature of the town, preserve important recreational and natural resources, permit anticipated growth of present residential areas, and ensure that important agricultural land is maintained. They are to ensure that town growth without unnecessary conversion of valuable farmland into home sites, and the loss of natural appearance, and not the loss of high tourism, and to retain the recreational potential. If this mine, there are lots of people who boat on the Wisconsin River. They go there to hunt, they go there to fish, they go there to camp, they go there for day paddling or day out. Many people take a day on the river for peace and quiet. If there's a mine running just over the bluff, up to possibly 365 days a year, possibly 24 hours a day, that changes the recreational and the rural aesthetics and all of this land, of that area. A couple other things, this is something from conditional use permits. Zoning requires that conditional uses are found not to be hazardous, harmful, or otherwise adverse to the environment or the value of the neighborhood or town. Myron Nagel is my uncle. If this mine goes into place, who would like to trade homes with him? The conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity and will not substantially diminish and impair property values in the neighborhood. That brings me to one of my questions that I think as a member, as a resident of Bridgeport, I would want answered. What does this mine bring to the town of Bridgeport? What does it bring to your government? Does it change your taxes? What are the benefits of having it here? What are the negatives of having it here? What would approving this mine do for the governmental body of the town of Bridgeport? That's a question I would want answered. What is it going to do to your taxes? The people who own the land where the mine is going to be established or is proposed to be established, they're now making more money off of their land. Does that change its value? Will their taxes go up? What about people living nearby? And what about people living nearby? Now, we in Wisconsin and in southwest Wisconsin, we're rather independent rural folks, and my land is my land, and I can do what I want on my land as long as it's not illegal. And that makes sense for corn and soybeans and rural agriculture, small scale or mid to mid-scale animal production. But CAFOs, confinement operations, we get opposition to those. Mines, that's not something you expect to happen in crop fields. Why do people oppose both a large confinement operation of agriculture, of animals, and a mine? Because what's happening on that land is heard, is seen, and is smelled by the neighbors. And not just for 1 day or 2 days when manure is spread. And if there's dust, the air quality changes. And it doesn't change for a little spring planting in the spring and a little harvesting in the fall. It could change 365 days a year. So that's why the neighbors take a really big interest, because it can also change the value of their health, their quality of life, and their real estate property, the homes and property that they live on. As the man in the video said, nobody wants to stay at the bed and breakfast next to the mine anymore. So there are lots of things, and we're going to go through a few more pieces, and then I'm going to bring up my computer with Microsoft Word, and I'm going to be, a couple people will be moderating, but I will be typing up your questions. They will appear on the screen, they will be saved on my computer. By the end of tonight, it will be emailed to someone, I'm not sure who, for you to have those questions, your questions recorded, to be delivered to your elected and appointed officials. And I will throw in more questions that I have that I might think you might be interested in. But otherwise, right now, that's all I have.
Thank you. I think Tim was going to show some videos of that.
We already did it when I was talking to speed things up a little.
Okay,
bit.
okay.
Sure.
So we're going to go right into the discussion period of this. Now, what I'd like to have is informational only. I don't want any argumentation or anything like this. I want pros and cons.
So, and Roger's going to type your questions so we can all see them.
Okay. So, some people have shown interest on speaking for tonight. Is Sharon Swiggum here?
Yes, I am.
Sharon, would you like this? Everybody would like to stand up and say their name, please.
This takes me by surprise. Yes. But I have done some letter writing and I'm very concerned. My first thought about it was, I do so much with astronomy at Wyalusing State Park. We do programs from May through October. And that would be one of my concerns, even as a question. You're looking for questions, is that true, Roger?
Yes.
I just speak with questions. Okay.
Well, you don't have to, but it is not it is not the residents or the general public's responsibility to have the answers. It is particularly for the people of Bridgeport, the only responsibility residents have is to ask their appointed and elected officials the questions. It is those elected and appointed officials, it is their responsibility to get the answers to the questions.
Okay, I am from Richland Center, and I spend many hours at Wyalusing State Park, which is a beautiful park, and we love that we have the night sky there. We do have a little bit of glow from Prairie du Chien, but we feel that the lighting would interfere with what we're able to see at this point. And we have people from other countries that come for our astronomy programs. In 2011, we had 1,168 that we serviced that came, and we did it as volunteers for the park. So my question would be along the line of the air pollution that may make a difference for us to see the night sky and the light pollution. Okay, thank you.
And Edie, would you like to say something about the health problems associated with it?
Sure. And I was just going to point out on people's agenda, you know, like there's suggestions down here, and the idea.
Edie's going to tell you who she is and where she is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and I don't really need these things either. I'm Edie Ehlert, and I work with Crawford Stewardship Project. I live in Crawford County, and I was just going to point out, I'm seeing on the agenda here that there's a whole bunch of things, and the idea is that you all get to speak to any of these issues or whatever issues come to you, and a few people are just speaking in case it sparks questions that you have. So I don't want to take much time, but I just want to point out one of the handouts. There's a bunch of handouts over there, and people didn't really get to see them on their way in much. But one of them is a crystalline silica fact sheet on one side, and on the other side is information that your town planning commission already received from Dr. Kelvin Rodolfo, who's a geologist, but who has also put a lot of effort into learning about the issues about air quality. And one of the things is to think that my question is, what happens for people who already have health, respiratory distress or respiratory issues if they're around a fair amount of dust? And not just at the mine site, but also along the way on trucks and in loading areas already that go on in Prairie du Chien, but also like in places like McGregor and along the way. But I just want to state that people want to say that the government takes care of us. There's all these things that permits and stuff they have to get. But according to Bruce Brown, who's the Geological and Natural History Survey person who, for the state of Wisconsin, that has a PowerPoint on this, he points out that there's very little conclusive information existing regarding sources, controls, or levels of silica present in ambient air. And this means it's not currently possible to determine conclusively whether or to what extent this is a public health concern. So what keeps happening is the state says, yes, fine airborne crystalline silica could be dangerous, it's hard to monitor, we have no methods or data to really control it, and since we can't prove it's dangerous, let's just go ahead and mine. That's all I have on that. Thank you.
Someone else that wanted to speak tonight to Dale Hine here?
Yeah, he's right
Yeah.
Dale, you speak on the economics associated with it?
Sure, yeah. Maybe I'll just start by introducing myself. I'm Dale Hine. My wife and I and my family have lived in Prairie du Chien for about 12 years. Love the area, beautiful area. I work at a local manufacturing company. I manage an area there with about 100 people. So I'm a local business person, and I'm here tonight, I guess, to pose a couple of questions for you to think about. Number one, I think, there are a lot of environmental concerns with frac sand mining. But I'm not going to talk so much on that tonight. I'm going to start first off with, number one, what is the reputation of the company that is looking to make this move? That is looking to mine that area? Okay, and I think you have to spend a lot of time looking at that before you make a decision on what you're going to allow them to do. And what I would look closely at is, how has this company reacted to the concerns of the citizens of Prairie du Chien and reacted to the concerns of the citizens of McGregor? Because in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, whatever it is, if this goes in, there are going to be concerns from the citizens of Bridgeport. So I would take a hard look at how those concerns have been reacted to. What I can say is this: I am concerned with how they've reacted. Okay, there are some very obvious issues that I see with the unloading operation within the city limits of Prairie du Chien. As a mechanical engineer, UW grad, there are some very simple things that could be done to address the noise, to address the dust at a fairly minimal cost. Those are things that a good company just does. They just do it. As a business manager in this community, I would just do it. I would absolutely stand firm and say, if the citizens of Prairie du Chien are standing up and say, I have an enormous issue with what you're doing here, as a company, you need to partner with that community. You need to partner, you need to listen. If I'm a citizen of McGregor and I'm concerned with the trucks rolling through my town, and there's a route that goes around it that's not much longer, by God, I would just do that. So I think if you're, the people in the township board here holding a really critical position, they're absolutely incredible volunteers that are doing an enormous service for this community. They have a critical decision in front of them, and they can set the rules here the way they want to set them. But number one, I would look at the reputation of the company. Number two, I would look at the need for the jobs. What are the need for the jobs? Okay? The company that I work for has just created 20 new jobs in the last 2 months. We're going to create another 20 to 30 new jobs in the next 6 to 12 months, okay? These are jobs that are paying $17 to $20 an hour with a benefits package that's worth over $20,000 a year. Total compensation is $70,000 a year, roughly. We are struggling to get people from Prairie du Chien. I'm going to guess, and I'm not representing the company tonight in saying this, but as an individual, I will say we're going to guess that nearly a third, maybe more of the people we're going to hire over the next 6 months are not going to be within a 25-mile driving radius of Prairie du Chien. Because that's what's happened over the last 20 hires. They're not from Prairie. They're not from Bridgeport. Not a lot of them. So what is the absolute need for the job? So if you're a citizen of Bridgeport, if you're a member of the board, what's your game? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to grow? If you're looking to grow, if you're looking to create jobs, then the first thing I would ask is, are the jobs I'm creating sustainable? Are they sustainable jobs? Because I think you're in a wonderful bargaining position right now. Because I don't see a lot of people that are really clamoring for these jobs that we've created. So you're in a bargaining position, in my opinion. To create jobs, you might as well create sustainable jobs. And I would ask the question, are frac sand mining jobs sustainable? And I think there's an obvious answer there. So number three, environmental impact. I think there are too many unknowns right now. I cannot speak with great intelligence on this right now. I have not done enough research, so I'm not going to stand up here tonight and pretend that I have. But I think there are a lot of concerns that need to be discussed, researched, and really gain some awareness on before a decision is made. So I think the board right now, the Bridgeport Township Board, if I was on that board, I would really be asking a lot of questions. I would really be digging in and deciding, what is it that we need to learn before we just dive in and give a company access to just do this for what gain? What is really the gain? I really don't know what the gain is yet. I can't define it, but I can see a lot of potential loss for this area, for the beautiful Lower Wisconsin Riverway, and for a lot of other things in the area. So right now, for me, it's really a net loss, and I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I mean, as a local business person, I'm not really comfortable standing up here and saying, hey, block another business's move here, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that because myself, I feel it's really, really, really concerning right now, and I think the reputation of the company needs to be looked at hard from an environmental point of view before anyone goes forward with this. So those are my main comments tonight.
Just let me check. Is anybody like too hot or too cold? Hot. I have that turned down, so maybe just pop that door open a little, I'm thinking. Glad it's not just me, thank you. That's staying, Roger.
I forgot one thing that I wanted to mention. One other question. And I told you on Friday I attended the mine tour with the Bridgeport members of the Bridgeport Planning Commission and members of the Bridgeport Board. They rode to the mine with Kyle Pattison and I believe it's Beth, and they left the mine with them. And I don't know where they started the carpool, but as a resident of Bridgeport, I would ask them, please go talk to people who live near the Boscoville mine. And you don't have to carpool with them, but let's set up a listening session in the Boscoville area and go there and listen to the people who live around the mine. Because as a resident, okay, very few of us are unbiased. I'm not unbiased. But let's hear both sides, at least. That's another question I'll throw in there.
Is Renee Randall?
Yeah.
Okay. She's going to speak on the archaeological.
Okay, I thought somebody else was going to speak on that, and they didn't show up this evening. Okay? Okay. Sitting down, my legs were across my leg, fell asleep, so if I fall over. Okay, so one of the things I asked after the last couple of meetings I attended was Beth Reagan, the PR person for Pattison, has talked a lot about all the studies that were completed and some. And since all of this is very new to everybody and nobody is an expert on any of this, you know, it sounded pretty good to me. They're diligent, they're doing their job. The studies are completed. She threw around the state, different, I shouldn't say it that way, but she mentioned the State Historical Society. She mentioned the DNR. It sounded like everything was being done that should be done. And then I asked, who's studying these studies? Does the permit get issued before the studies have been completely looked at? You know, and so I asked for a job, and my job was to look at the endangered species and the archaeology summaries. So what happened is that when surveys were done on one of the properties, I'm going to try to find this exactly. Okay, there's a number of new sites, archaeological sites that would make the National Register of Historic Places. This is in something called Phase 1, which means that usually if they find something, Phase 1 triggers Phase 2. So this should be something that doesn't stop at just the survey that's being done right now. There's enough of these new sites, it looks like 8 of them right here that I'm looking at. This is a lot of information for me, you know, to try to, because I don't know enough about it. I talked to another archaeologist who has sent a letter to, in response to this. Hold on just a minute. Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time looking for it, and it's not so handy. But what he's saying is that, first of all, when he did the first, when I asked him to look at the area, he said that there was nothing there that looked like it should be, that there were lots of sites, archaeological sites in the floodplain, whatever, that looked like they should be there, but nothing was recorded yet. When nothing's recorded, they can't go ahead and proceed. Right now, because of the surveys that Pattison has paid for, this should be pushed. The idea of the possible sites that would be disturbed should really be, and the fact that they would be eligible for the National Registry, that should be pushed so that this process goes to Phase 2. And I'm wondering who's minding the store? Who pushes these things to Phase 2? Because if Pattison isn't pushing it, I can tell you that the endangered species idea that Mark Fischler said that there's a cave. Is it you that has the cave, Mark?
Me. Wow.
Okay.
That's Ronnie on Mark.
Sit up, tell me,
Sorry.
Mark.
All right, there's,
So what is it?
well, there's a cave. Is it on your?
Yeah, it's on the home farm,
Okay.
which is probably, as the crows flies, probably what, half mile, maybe, something like that. And another thing that years ago, the old man that used to live there before he died, was Bud Woodall, and he told me that many years ago, the old road that goes up through the cave there was a path where he used to take his kids on a wagon. And with the BIM overhauls, he says the Indians used to come out as they rode the trail, the coins would shake out, the gold coins and this and that. And he told me that the Indians used to live in that cave many years ago. And his dad even, his dad and dad, witnesses that as well. So it's never been studied for any Indian burials or anything like that, but there was 5 rooms in that cave. And there's a dome and a half left. And they've collapsed because of the sand, but I think it should be looked at,
Well, it's in
and
a
I think
phase.
Indian burial grounds are, maybe there's nothing there, but it should be looked at by somebody independent.
Right. There is an archaeologist who was at University of La Crosse, who headed a department, who would be willing to be hired to do a second opinion and to proceed with that survey, to push that phase 2. Because that alone, if there were burial mounds, that would block, depending on where they were. They have to be within a certain area. Let me just say about the endangered species, that is already approved. The fact that you have bats in that cave that are rare and endangered is not going to stop. It's not going to do anything. The woman at the university told me that there's 2 sand mines in northern Wisconsin, both underground and near bat caves, both with very big populations of bats, 65,000, 85,000. And those mines have been approved. So I think that's already, of the 2 issues, the archaeological sites would be the one to jump on. So,
Thank you. Now we're going to open it up. Is anybody else that would like to stand up and say and end up with a question?
My name is Annie Waitsman, and my question is, I had asked this question earlier about the recovery. In the initial hearing I went to, this was going to be a 15-year deal. And they had a plan for the recovery of the land. They were going to have piles, they were going to pile dirt, and then they were going to put it back, and then they were going to dig the next one. Now I hear it's 60 years. And nobody's talked about, if this went through, what is the plan? Who's going to do it? Who's in charge of it? That's my question.
I'd like to add to that too. Are they going to recover it at the end of 60 years? Or are they going to recover it after the 40 acres or 60 acres or something like that? Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Pete Nappick. My wife, beautiful wife, whose birthday it is tonight, decided to spend her birthday here in this meeting. But Nora and I, we came here from the ugly state south of us, Illinois. But we've lived here full-time for 11 years, and we operate a bed and breakfast near Soldiers Grove, Wisconsin. And I've been very active for 7 or 8 years in helping to develop the tourism industry in Crawford County and the Kickapoo Valley. I've been part of the Crawford County Tourism Council, the Kickapoo Valley Association. I'm currently also a board member on the Crawford County Economic Development Corporation. And this is something fairly new in Crawford County that is aimed at bringing jobs to the county. So my question, one of my questions would be, if this mine is approved, are we going to gain more economically in this county from the mine? Is that going to compensate for the possible losses of tourism revenues? Tourism is a rapidly growing business in Crawford County. From 2010 to 2011, it grew at 11% for that 1 year period. Not many other things in this area are growing that rapidly. From the very start of our tourism development efforts here, we've taken the approach of being advocates for silent sports, for low impact tourism, for stuff that doesn't negatively impact landowners, property owners. We don't want to make this a Wisconsin Dells, but somebody stood up earlier and said, what great landscape we have here. This is the greatest resource of this county, is our landscape, our nature, the beauty of our streams, our trout fishing capabilities, and we're very low ranked in tourism right now in the state. Of the 72 counties, we rank in the bottom 5 or 6. We have $40 million a year in revenue. The average county in Wisconsin receives about $70 million a year in tourism revenues. So we have a long way to grow just to get up to be an average county in Wisconsin terms. So I don't want to keep anybody from running their business, but I also don't want their business to negatively impact a lot of other businesses. In my little village of Soldiers Grove, there's been 3 businesses that have started up in the last 3 years. Little villages, as you well know, scramble to get a new business in town. 2 of those 3 businesses that started up are lodging businesses that are involved intimately with tourism. So tourism there is working like nothing else is working, and it's true for the county as a whole too. And then I'd like to make one other comment. Leave the tourism aside, but anybody that has any questions, you're welcome to contact me.
Was it 11% annually?
Yes, 11% annually. The other thing I've become aware of is that the price of frac sand has plummeted recently. The man in one of the videos that was shown was talking about $300 a ton frac sand. I've been told it's down to as low as $20 a ton in some areas. And I've been told that some of the small frac sand mines that have started already have been sold to big corporations, including Halliburton. For those of you who are familiar with Halliburton, I suggest you think of it this way. You have what appears to be a very good local businessman who's making this application. He's asking for 60 years of operation, which is ridiculous. Within 2 or 3 or 5 years, he could sell that mine. Somebody like Halliburton could take it over, and then you think Halliburton will be responsive to your complaints and your concerns? So when you issue this, another question is, how can you be assured that future owners of this mine will be responsive to the citizens of the area here? I think this is a very important thing to consider. And from the tourism point of view, the first thing I would want to see go is the 24-hour-a-day operation. That does not have to be in the permit either. That business could make money at 12 hours a day and not have lights going all night long to negatively affect not only the residents, but the tourists who are driving down our county's first scenic road. So, thank you very much.
Roger, another statistic. In the last decade, kayaking has increased 270%. And I know from people I take out, especially the ladies or older couples, they don't want to camp on a sandbar. They want to utilize bed and breakfasts and hotels and motels. And all the other, they don't want to even cook. They want to paddle and check out all the local
It's
stuff.
the world pool.
Exactly. So.
Anyone else? Questions? Question.
I'm Tim DeBruin. We've lived in the area for about 16 years. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are opposed to this. I don't understand the legal logistics of the area. But why couldn't we just put it to a public referendum? Let the citizens decide instead of just a couple of people.
Right, absolutely.
Thank you. Right up here, and then back there next.
My name is Judy Bebo. I live right next door. And I was at the last meeting, and there was a man there that was talking about the health of the people that work at Pattison. And I wonder what his qualifications are. I'm a retired nurse. I would like to know what his qualifications were of talking about how healthy the people are that work there.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Tim Mason, and I'd just like to make you aware of a documentary that you may not have seen. It's called Gasland, and it's on Nexus, or Netflix or YouTube. And what's going on is, you gotta realize where this sand is going and what it's doing to our neighbors in other states and what it's doing to their homes. And you will see rapidly that there's concerned people just like you in this community hall on the other side of, in New York and Pennsylvania and other states that are the recipients of the frack sand and what it's doing to their drinking water and their environment. Also, we're made to believe that this industry that Halliburton pioneered is going to make us energy independent. And in actuality, they hope to be the largest exporter of natural gas, even above Saudi Arabia within the next couple decades. So there's a lot of things to be looked at. Thank you.
Anyone else? Who's next?
We talked to Patterson's, we farm right there, and we talked about the issues with our well and some cattle, and that, all we got was promises at the end of the day, and just wondered if they put that in writing. If we had issues, we want to know who to contact so that take care of it.
Well, Mark Fischler here, and one question I have is there any elected officials on the board or that has any family members that might be working at Pattison? That's one question. Is it a biased decision? And another thing I want to make note is that if depending on how this vote goes, if the majority of the public is unhappy with the way the vote went, there is a list. This here is coming up here in January. We need people to take action, get up here to sign up for chairperson, supervisor, town assessor, town clerk, step up, and me and my brother and a few of us are thinking about it, but I'm not certain we're going to do it. But we're going to change things around here, and we would be for the people. So, we wouldn't sell ourselves out. And
if the mine goes through, I will vote for anybody else other than those members. So go ahead and run.
Well, we need more people. Everybody agree? So, that's all I got.
Do we have anybody that would like to talk from the other aspect of it?
Arnie, you had a woman back here that wanted to talk right up here.
Okay, one other question is, as my brother was saying here, he was riding with, was it Beth Reagan? Okay, he was riding with Beth Reagan.
Who was?
My brother.
Oh, okay.
Right? You tell us.
I'm trying to think of the story.
They went to the sand mine the other day in Boston, and on the way back, he was asking her a question about, my brother says, well, instead of bringing the sand out Rod's driveway, why don't you take it out Earl Dean's driveway? That way we don't have to listen to it and deal with it, Well, there's not an option there. That's shut down, supposedly. The approach for Rod's has already been decided. And everybody's gotta know that, well, this ain't gonna affect me. Certain people say this ain't gonna affect me. It's gonna affect everybody. Everybody's gonna see this. You come from Wazeeka and you're heading Prairie, don't matter which direction. I heard in Eastman Township, they're looking at drilling there. So, you know, everybody don't think it's out their back door, but it'll be there. And then it's too late. You guys have to suffer with it, so.
The lady wanted to.
Hi, I'm Ethel Denver from Wazeeka. I don't know if I need this, but I do have laryngitis. One of my questions was, I've been listening to people in Prairie du Chien complain about the facility there to deaf ears. I've heard people in McGregor complain. It all falls on deaf ears. Crawford County had a moratorium, and that allowed the townships and the villages to look at these questions and put something in effect. During that moratorium, Patterson Company and all their associates were negotiating deals. So at October 19th, when the moratorium ended, before they were signing paperwork, and before the week is really dry, we're having the Planning Commission of Bridgeport plus the town board make a decision for people's lives of the next 60 years. And I don't know what their qualifications are. I know that I wouldn't be qualified if I was sitting on a board. But I'd like to know results of independent studies and why the public of Bridgeport wasn't even told about this until the last minute.
Thank you, Ethel. That reminds me that I know you folks will find this hard to believe, but I am 60 years old.
Yes.
That's better part of a lifetime. That's what 60 years is. Good God. So that's a long time. Who's ever in charge at that point will just think that mine's always been there. You know, reclamation. That's transformation. The town of Arena is having a meeting tomorrow night. The town board to get a moratorium in place. Again, a moratorium buys more time to review their ordinance and make sure citizens are protected. So it is happening up and down the riverway, the awareness, and again, it would be great. We can agree to disagree on things, but let's all work together to make sure the process is done legally and thoroughly before just looking at an application and say, well, that looks good to me, and let them go. You know, that's a challenge. I will stand side by side with Rod or somebody else, a completely different opinion than I do, and defend his right to his opinion and what he wants to do. But if you guys hear anybody, intimidating you or nasty stuff from our side, they're not part of our group. We'll hash out the issues, but no personal attacks and none of that nasty stuff. So, thank you.
I just have one other question that I think might be interesting to put to the board. Do we know for sure that Patterson is the only investor in this proposed enterprise, or could there be other outside money that's coming in as part of the groundwork to get things started here? And who are those other investors that would really be worth looking at?
One more over here.
Hello, Corey Larson. I own the Prairie Peddler Bike Shop here in town. And Pete and I have pretty similar experiences working with Crawford County Tourism, and dovetail very nicely with you as well. One of the big concerns that I have is going to be safety for cyclists around here. The safety. We take up a very small amount of room on roads generally. These trucks I've seen in the videos are very large. One of the things that we we make a big splat. We're kind of like a deer. We don't want to do that. We have kids. Also concerned about tourism. I do pull in a fair number of groups around here that come to this area specifically because the roads are beautiful, because the local residents are generally kind to us when we're riding on roads. They give us generous space. We don't want to see those guys go away. They come in here, they stay in our hotels, they spend money in our towns. And it's more than just in the spring. We have groups in the summer, we have races around in the area. We have tourists that are going up and down the river, east and west. If we get a reputation around here of having obstructed traffic, we won't see that kind of tourism around here anymore either.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say.
Yeah.
Actually, I could sing this. Do you guys remember the song, "Don't It Always Seem to Go That You Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone"?
Right.
Take paradise and make it a parking lot. And there's more verses to that, but I think that's what we have right here, is something priceless, you know, that can be replaced, that can be bought back once it's gone.
I'm going to throw a couple more questions up. One of them is another health concern. What about people with allergies, not just respiratory, but what about skin allergies? I'm one of those people with highly sensitive skin. I can't pet animals. I can't sleep on hotel linens. I cannot use hotel towels. I can't walk through grass and other dry plant material without, if I get the dust on my hand or my body, I start itching and I have to go take a shower. So what about the allergies? And another one, if the Bridgeport Plans Commission and board approve this, can they put conditions in it that would make the residents of Bridgeport happy and feel more protected? I'll just type those up.
Just before anybody skinnies out, there are petition forms to sign if you're interested, and other information over alongside at the tables. I know it's been a long night. Thank you, and Arnie?
Want to thank everybody for coming, and want to thank for all your comments and concerns. And don't forget the literature, and please sign the petition. Thank you. One more announcement about meeting.
It is my understanding, and anybody here, Plan Commission, whatever, help me be straight, this Wednesday, December 5th at 5:30 is a Plan Commission meeting?
Yep.
5:30 this Wednesday, Town of Bridgeport, and immediately following a town board meeting? And this is on the agenda?
Correct.
And you will be taking public comment?
No.
No public comment?
As far as I'm aware, the public comment was conducted at our last meeting.
Just, again, so we're all on the same page.
As far as I'm aware, the public input was taken care of at our last meeting.
Taken care of?
Well, that we went through the public input.
Are you kidding? Taken care of.
Yeah. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, you know, you don't have to answer questions tonight, we just want to be clear on meeting times and so forth.
I'm just saying that, you know, I'm not saying that we couldn't do public
Okay,
comment.
well-
I mean, I'm just,
Well, and then,
that was my understanding.
That's why we had the meeting last time, was no public comment. That might be the
Certainly.
procedure that you have
Certainly.
when you're going to have a loss.
And I'm certainly here just for your guys' input, so I'm not.
okay, yeah. Well, again, I just say,
Well, I encourage everybody to come. I mean, I'm not saying don't come. That's not what we're saying.
may we ask you if you have already, as a public government entity, gone through the application, you know, at a meeting even amongst yourselves and compared it to the comp plan and your zoning ordinance, because at that last meeting you had, you stated this was the first time you guys had even talked about it.
That's correct.
So you have not compared it to the zoning ordinance or the smart growth plan, but you think, some people think it might be okay.
Not in a group setting we have, no.
Again, I don't
On an
understand.
individual basis, yeah, everybody's understanding that they've looked at it, and I'm not saying that there's a decision that's gonna be made on Wednesday. I don't,
He says he's not saying there's gonna be a decision made, but it is on the
it's on the
agenda.
agenda for possible decision.
And the agenda says possible decision, discussion and possible decision.
Correct.
Thank you.
There's another question in the back. Tim,
Yep, yep.
another question in the back.
One more question back.
One question.
She doesn't need a microphone.
That's right, I'll speak very loudly.
Then we give it to Arnie.
Does anyone here understand if, my question is this, is there anything prohibiting the town board from deciding more public input is appropriate? Is there anything prohibiting them from allowing more public input? Prior to decision.
Good question.
Also, is there an appeal process?
Is there any other questions?
Is there an appeal process if it should happen that there is a decision made and permits granted? Is there any way to appeal that or? In
You
their
have to ask
political
the official.
Yeah, well, I'm asking a question. Is there a way to appeal if a decision perhaps would be made next? Is there a mechanism?
Is there? Do you know?
I understand we could probably retain a lawyer and take it to court. Yep.
How many of us is it going to take for you guys to know? I mean, people have been writing, people have been calling, people have been writing in the Courier Press. How many of us is it going to take for you guys to understand that this is upsetting to us? I have a 9-year-old child sitting here tonight. Why? Because I am scared to death what this is going to do to him. And he's not my only child. I do not think that this potential business is worth sacrificing my children or anyone else's children in this room. Grandchildren. And it's not just those of us who live on the immediate road. This truck or these trucks are going to go up the highway. There are subdivisions, the golf course. How many people have to breathe this in for us to finally say no? Do you guys have a number?
Thank you.
My name's Eileen Steele, and I'm looking around, I see a lot of men, particularly like their motorcycles. And I know there's been a lot of accidents on turns on roads, coming off of gravel roads and stuff. What is this impact going to do when you go up to Boscoville and you see this thick on the highways of silicon sand? And I don't think the motorcyclists will be around very long. They'll either die or they'll stay away. So it's something that should be impacted, because you see a lot of motorcyclists having fun with our city highways.
I have a question. I'm just wondering why it's just the Bridgeport Township that gets to make this decision. When we moved into our house 45 years ago, Dillman had a hot mix plant on this corner here. And we had little children and they couldn't even go outside and play. And I wrote and I called every one of our state representatives and they came out and they moved it. And that was the most wonderful thing that ever happened. When they wanted to put a trailer court next door to me, next door to our property here, I remember going to every Bridgeport meeting that I could. I was teaching prenatal classes, I would cancel them and say there was an emergency. And I got people to go out there, and there's no trailer court next door. And I thought, it's wonderful to live in America. And I think that our representatives in Wisconsin haven't listened to us very much lately. And I think it's time that we say what we think and let people know that, listen, we are the ones that pay you. We are taxpayers too, and we have a right to say what we think. Thank you.
Hello, I don't know if a lot of you know me or anything else. I'm Tyson Martin. I actually work in the mine there in Clayton. I've been sitting here all night listening to you guys' questions, stuff like that, what harm it's going to do to your kids, what this is going to do to the road traffic. All of our trucks I've seen are running with tarps that may not affect you. The big question you may want to look at before you decide on whether you say yes or no to this policy is look around, ask some of the people in your fellow community that you may not realize. But working over there, I've worked there over the last year, and there's a lot more people in this community that work for this company that a lot of you probably do not realize. So it's not just going to hurt you whether you vote no. I mean, I understand this is a big move for the township of Bridgeport, but on the same part, it's also going to bring in that much more money into your township. And if it says no and this company falls under, it's going to lose a lot of money for this township by possible loss of them fellow employees in my standings. So I just want you guys to think about that while you're thinking this.
Thank you. Back over here.
Everyone here seems to be happy with where they are in life and how their house looks. But hey, there are other people out here, they need jobs. They need good paying jobs. Why do we want to close the door and say no to the people that are still trying to get somewhere in their life? I mean, if this place opens up, there'll be some new employees. The new employees, you know what? He's going to have some money, he's going to go buy some Carhartt clothes. And he's going to look good in those clothes, he's going to meet a woman, and she was going to marry him. And you know what? Then they're going to need a house. So, to build a house, they're going to need a carpenter. And they're going to need a carpenter, he's going to need a truck, he's going to need some wood. Maybe a Menards will come here. Sell some wood, maybe the car dealership will sell a car. It's like, why? Just because you're all happy, you don't need anything else? Why say no to the people who are still trying?
Because there's too many questions. Too many questions.
I saw a lot of false propaganda up there too. I've never seen a truck go that fast when there's a thing on there.
Time-lapse photography. Too many questions.
Mr. Patterson.
Too many questions.
My name is Kyle Patterson. I'm from Prairie du Chien, and I wrote down a few of the questions. One, I'm the sole owner of the company, and I've been in Prairie du Chien area here for 27 years. Our company started in 1950 in Fayette, Iowa, in Clayton, Iowa, in 1969. And the best of our ability, we try to get along with the neighbors. We certainly can make trucks invisible. I can assure you, as we've done in the past, and if you want to listen, that there is science proof that, I mean, the dust isn't a problem. I mean, we have people working around the area. I mean, thanks, Titus, for speaking up. We do monitor, and their health is very important to us. And
Do they wear personal protective equipment? Respirators and stuff?
At times they do.
So if they have to, why doesn't the community need it?
So why don't you care about the public's health then?
So it is harmful. It's harmful to the people that work there if they have to wear PPE. It is.
I build blacktop roads and I wear a mask.
Yeah.
And those blacktop roads go right past your house.
Releasing there. That's why you wear a respirator.
Anyway.
Now, folks, we're going to let him make his comment. We're not going to argue about it. Let him say his piece, and if he's got a question, let's put that down to him.
Thank you. Anyway, we are very serious about our employees' health and the health around them. We do area monitoring for noise and dust and minimize it. And we live within the regulations as everybody else does. And that's our intent, and that's what we do. I mean, there's 30 to 60 jobs, as we said. And actually, I mean, if you look at the permit, many of your questions, reclamations that have been answered in there. And then if you look on the web, I mean, you really can find whatever you want to read there. And the question is, taking the time to read the science-based facts to properly understand it. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look at that can give you comparisons also. The sand that we produce is silica sand. It's 99.9% silica. On the county roads, there is sand, 1 to 2 tons per mile spread. Each time it snows, somewhere probably between 20 and 50% of that sand is silica sand. And that's being spread all over the roads, and our trucks won't be spreading any sand on the roads at all. So I mean, there's other comparisons that if you look at the river valley along the Wisconsin River, really that Wisconsin River, the reason why it's so sandy is because it goes through the Jordan Formation. And that all of that sand in the Wisconsin River that you enjoy, that's the same frac sand, a high percentage of frac sand that we're mining. If you look at between here and Walmart, at times there's the fields that gets dusty there. The fields there go right through the middle of the Jordan Formation. A lot of that sand that's blown across the road that you drive through, that you don't maybe think anything of, that's really the same sand there also. Anyway, there's other comparisons. Thank you for your time, and thank you.
So is the issue of silicosis a non-issue ever? Why is this idea that silicosis comes from breathing this very fine fugitive dust? I mean, is that a figment of the imagination of some people somewhere else? I mean,
No, because his workers wear PPE. His
What
workers
about
wear
Bowen?
PPE.
Actually, MSHA's regulation, or what MSHA direction is to manage the work environment without personal protective equipment. But that's, there's circumstances as things change and you evaluate work environments. If there's any doubt, we wear PPE. And what we do is monitor the work environment, and if we see a problem, then we change it. We monitor going off of our work site. It's like another comparison would be somebody across the street smoking a cigarette, and we're standing over here. You have concerns of getting lung cancer if you're standing over here. I mean, where your silicosis is an issue is when you're right around the processing equipment, and if you're breaking up those granules. It's not from the mining of them. There's moisture in the soil, and the sand is not really being broke up. That's different.
the film we just saw where the sand was blowing because of wind gusts,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems logical that that could happen at the site.
Anyway, we have people in any new work environment, we put an air monitor on them and test for airborne silica to make sure that silicosis isn't a problem. If there's any new work environment, we test it to make sure there's not a problem. If there is a problem, then we change it. And if it's unknown, and when they first wear, if it's unknown and when we're first starting a new work area, that's where we wear a respirator. People are, anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. We got
Thank
some
you.
more questions. So.
That sounds fine.
Can I? Well, I just wanted to make, I don't need that. I just wanted to make the point that 80 health professionals in Chippewa County petitioned the DNR to set standards for crystalline silica, and the DNR chose not to. So the question is, why has the DNR not set standards for crystalline silica for the public? Why is it not being tested specifically, the tiny particles? And why is it that it can be done, but it's very hard to monitor? And that was sort of what the DNR said. They said, indeed, there is some dust, indeed, there is some issues. We don't know exactly what they are. My other question is Patterson going to apply for a waiver on monitoring the sand at the site, the dust at the site with the DNR. And that's it.
Are they going to?
Yes, yeah, and it's just to put up there.
Question over here.
Question over here.
My question is there a way to get the information that this will be 30 to 60 jobs? And how do you make sure that those 30 to 60 jobs are going to go to the people primarily in Bridgeport first? And how do you know they're really going to have 30 to 60 jobs? What guarantees?
Yeah, a question in the back too. Roger, you got that one?
It's up here, in terms of the length of the jobs.
The length, okay. Let me get this lady back for you. Here you go, sir. Hi.
First and foremost, I just got questions. I just got here, so you may have answered them, so don't bother answering them. But my question is mostly for the town board and this. I want to know what Patterson is going to do for Rodney Fischler when his cows won't stay in. I want to know what he's going to do for the guy that lives down the road and he can't sleep at night because the lights are shining in his face all night long and the trucks are going by. And I want to know what, these are all my questions, and I think everybody should have these questions. Lay off the dust, lay off I'm sure you all must have questions, but the town board, I live in Bridgeport, they work for us. They're our constituents. They are the ones that need to answer all these questions, and they need to have good answers for them before they allow them to move in. They may be good neighbors, but they're not neighbors yet. And I'm not necessarily against frac mining. I think it's okay. And another question for Patterson would be, why do you need to move in with a 60-year lease when you say you should be done in 20 years? And why how am I going to say that? I guess the other question is one big one for Kyle would be, why do you have a mine over there? Property values, I guess, is what I'm thinking. You have a mine over there, and all that property that you have over there, and you stated in the paper yourself that you live in Prairie du Chien. Why don't you have a $500,000 house on that property, that you're living on? This coincides with our property values dropping possibly because of this. And all the other problems, little problems, that they're going to say, no, we got rules. We got our rules already, and they're not going to do anything for us. And the town board's going to tell us, well, we gave them the lease. They're there for 60 years. What are you, Rod, going to do when they decide that, well, we mine what we said we would, we mine what we said we would, but we still have a lease. We got sand over here that we need to get out, so we're going to store it there for the next 40 years. And we got a depot here, and we're going to stay there. And coincide with the cancer thing, and then another question is, if this does cause cancer, I'm not saying it will, if it does cause cancer, what's going to happen? And we get a lawsuit, and you get sued, and everything happens, and you're broke. Rod sits there with a farm that 160-acre rock quarry. That's what his stated in the paper. He said it looked like a rock quarry. 160 acres, and I'm broke. We're filing bankruptcy. There you go, Rod. Put your dirt back yourself. I just think that we all need to concentrate on the questions and have good questions, and ask your town board to support you in your questions, answer your questions, because they should.
Thank you. Yeah. We have another one over here.
I just want to talk, I think everyone should Google silicosis. We don't know, there's no monitoring. Less and less monitoring of water, air is going on now. The DNR does not do any monitoring. The problem will come in 10 to 15 years, when it's too late. When you get it, what are you going to do? You're going to die. So I think everyone should Google it, check for themselves about this health possibility. And if the company is very secure, they should be monitoring all around the area. Sand studies show that sand can go as far as 20 kilometers.
Thank you. Roger, I didn't get an official question on there yet. My question to the town board and the plan commission members would be, please, if nothing else, look at the very first part of your zoning ordinance and the very first part of your comprehensive plan, where it says the purpose of this, these laws are to, protect the health and well-being of the citizens. So, okay, the health could be questionable with the silicosis answer or question and all that, but well-being, stress, distress, depression from Myron's house, I see where it is. I can see Myron, yeah, okay, he's got traffic on Highway 60 out in front, but he could sit out on his backside of the house and have some peace and serenity now. And Myron was there first. So, health and well-being of your citizens, maintain the rural character of the township, that's all in your own law. So please double check that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm with the trucking part of it. My boss here, we have all the trucks and I kind of supervise them. And one thing I'd like to talk about is, you guys said earlier we don't really work with the questions that McGregor has, on Prairie. And I would like to say that we complied a lot with McGregor. I mean, there were complaints about going too fast through town. We made all of our trucks go 5 miles an hour under the speed limit. And since then, we have gone around McGregor. We do not even go through town anymore. And I know with Prairie down there in the dust, I mean, that's like a never ending, I mean, there's always somebody that are working on dust. We're trying to make our hoppers better. I mean, our tarps, they get a little tear in them, we fix our tarps. I mean, we do, from my knowledge, we try to work with the public as much as we can, because I need my job and I want my job, and I got a lot of needy employees that need this job, and we all take it, to do our best, and so we do try to comply with the trucking end. And you see them pictures of trucks going across the center line. I've seen other trucks. I mean, it's just not sand trucks that do that. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect driver and I ain't never accidentally gone over. I'm sure every one of you have drove a vehicle across the center line. It's not like just sand trucks do it on purpose, and we're not out there to hurt anybody. I mean, I got 2 kids too. I mean, and
Would you take your 2 kids and build a house next to a sand mine?
if I could afford a house, yeah. I mean,
So Patterson doesn't pay you enough to afford a house when you're a truck driver?
I never said that. I mean, how many new houses have you built in life?
Thank you. And over here we have a gentleman. Hi, I'm
I have a question. Do you work for Patterson, or you're a different trucking company?
I work with Patterson. They own the trucks. I run them for them.
Okay. All right. So you're kind of you're a different company that runs the trucks that they own?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Yes. I'm Chad Bausch. I manage all the trucks for Patterson's. Go closer, sorry. Like I said, like Chad said, every truck we got, we try to do the best we can, keep everything clean. Obviously, we got DOT on us, just like you guys do state, or any other cop or anything. All my drivers, we put air monitors. Patterson, they go above and beyond. I mean, we put air monitors in the trucks to make sure that nothing you know, we don't have no problems with that.
Could you explain that to us a little bit, how that works, where it goes on the truck?
They put an air monitor right on the driver.
Right on the driver?
Yeah, it goes right on there and then.
In the
it's just-
cab?
Yeah.
So it doesn't monitor any dust that's leaving the truck? Just what's in
Well,
the
no,
cab?
I'm just looking, I'm talking about personal,
Okay,
you know.
that's what I...
Employee. I mean, and, drivers, they, like I said, with dust, the tarps, if they get bad, we fix them, we patch them, we do everything we can. And, you know, and there's no trailer, there's no truck that's perfect, obviously. You know, we try, if there's any leaks on trailers, we go through, we fix them, we maintenance them, we do, you know, you're gonna have a tire blow out, sit along the road, or it's just, it's a piece of equipment. But, I think that, you know, the money that the jobs that I have for my drivers, you know, what we do, the drivers seem to, you know, we go, but we do incentives for keeping trucks clean. You know, we're starting that now. You know, we try to go above and beyond, keep the dust down. I mean, on the hoppers, we're putting plastic things around the bottom of them, you know, where they unload to try to maintain dust. You know, it's, I guess, and as far as driver qualifications, that's just like anything else. Probably 1 out of every 15 drivers I could hire, you know, it's a lot of it's insurance, and you know how that works. But everything else is, knock on wood, you know, you never have an accident, but that's like wishing you never have a rainstorm with it, you know. But I mean, you know, you can always hope and pray, but like McGregor, I've told all my drivers that, you know, like Chad said, we gotta go 5 miles under the speed limit, you know, as courteous as we can. I mean, and
Will you guys be hauling out from this month, proposed mine too?
Yes.
Your company,
Yes.
your drivers?
yes,
Will you guys be going 5 miles under the limit by my house?
well, we'll probably be doing right at
You got
the
the whole
speed
way?
limit. I mean, most of my trucks are governed at 55, so 55, 56, that's
What
about all
about
they
the
can do.
braking going down the highways?
Yeah.
Braking?
Because my husband works at night, so he has to sleep during the day,
Mhm.
works 12-hour nights. So
I mean,
what's that?
the engine brakes on the trucks, you know, that's.
Don't worry, they're gonna run as many trucks at night as they are during the day, so whether you work
Yeah,
at
right.
night or work during the day,
But
you're
I'm just
gonna
trying to
listen
say
to
if
it.
they limit it to working whichever hours, you know.
But, you know, that's not up to me, I gotta.
Are you gonna use the Jake brakes going up and down the hills by
Yeah,
our
up
house?
and down.
We don't,
Yeah.
we try not to.
Try not to.
Well, that's
No,
just.
but all our trucks are mufflered, so they're not straight piped.
How many trucks per hour? Do you
It'll be
think?
about a truck every 6 minutes, right? 250 a day, that's about every 6 minutes. Every 6 minutes, you're gonna have a truck rolling down the highway.
I just had a question that went right with the trucks for up on there, because what we're trying to do is put questions up there. My question is, the estimate I heard was, from Kyle at a meeting, was 125 trucks, that means with sand, so I multiplied times 2, and that makes 250, including the empty trucks.
Are the trucks that we're doing any different? Should we
No,
be
no, no,
singled
I just
out
wanna ask a
to
question.
the other trucks? And what percentage change are our trucks? I mean, it's a state highway.
Right, I'm
And
only
if
asking
you
a
build on a
question.
state highway, you expect trucks to go by a
Yes.
state highway, don't
So
you?
my question, let me finish my question, is there any controls on, so the way I read it now, on the conditional use permit, it doesn't, the estimate given was 125 full, 250 a day. Is there in the conditional use permit a limit on the number of trucks in a day? That was my question. That's the only question I have.
Well, folks, if it isn't late, I think probably we should start to think about wrapping it up.
Actually, I just got a couple quick items. Actually, I've had, I live in the area. Actually, I've had more people come up to me and apologize for the articles that are in the paper. And some of them I know personally, some of them I've never seen before. And I mean, we all have different knowledge bases and different understandings and different upbringing and tolerances to understand what's around us, the world around us. And to the best of my ability, I try to communicate what our safeguards and what's safe and what we're doing and communicate that. But again, not everybody understands everything the same way. I had heard somebody here the other day from McGregor comment that the sand trucks were very polite, much more than the grain trucks, the other trucks in the area, and gave us a compliment. I mean, another thing related to the trucks, and I heard school buses, or, I mean, the truck drivers are trained professionals. They have requirements that are much more stringent on them. And speaking about the school bus, I mean, actually there was a Wazeeka school bus, I believe, hit by somebody doing something on their cell phone, rear-ended. Would you rather have your kids in a school bus with a semi behind it that's a trained professional, or not? I mean, they're trained professionals, and that's what they do for a living. Anyway, the trucks are, I mean, and we've done noise monitoring. The noise monitoring from the operations on the roads near them, the traffic on the road, the normal traffic, makes more noise than the mining operation at Boscoville, at where we're transloading in Bridgeport. Anyway, that's. If there's any other questions I can ask, otherwise I'm done.
Tim, I would like to state one. I would like to say, Kyle, I was with you on the tour of the mine on Friday. You stated you've done air monitoring. Dust doesn't leave the mine site. How many years have you been operating that mine? The sand.
We started at Boscoville in January, February
of this year.
Of this year.
Okay.
We started our mining operation at Clayton in 2008.
Okay. One of the things that is somewhat deceiving to me is you say you do monitoring. But then when someone asked you how many times have you done monitoring at the Boscoville mine for dust leaving the mine, it was once. So it's deceiving to people if you say you. I think when you say that you do monitoring, you might want to give numbers, because otherwise people might be thinking something different than what does happen, either positive or negative.
I think in general, people, when you're saying we do monitoring, we're thinking continuous.
Actually, as far as monitoring, I mean, in Chad and what he spoke of in the semi, Henshaw's requirements are that you, for each work environment, the person wears the monitor.
Sure, but what about for what's leaving the site? Are you doing continuous monitoring?
No, we're not doing continuous monitoring because it doesn't appear that there's a need to do continuous monitoring. We do whenever there's a concern. If there is any concern, we engineer controls to minimize the dust, so there's not a problem. And if there is a need to do continuous monitoring, we can certainly do that if it's needed.
And like your question, you know, you said about living next to a mine. I got 16 semis rolling in and out of my drive. I got 3 little kids, 5 or 6 or 8.
You chose that.
Sorry. But I mean, and they're washing out. We're cleaning trucks up, and I mean.
I like truck drivers. I have a lot of respect for truck drivers.
You know, I mean, it's.
You chose that. You chose where you live, and
We didn't choose.
We're not choosing
We're
this
not
mine.
choosing.
We're saying no.
Right. We built.
We have a question over here. Okay. On my way around, folks, I would like to share that my own impression of Patterson Mining Company is that they are a quality company. But again, back to the Riverway and Highway 60 byway and all that, you could put nice berms up and nice landscaping, and especially in the fall when the sumac is all nice and red around there, it's like putting lipstick on a pig in the Riverway. So it's just not the place for it.
My question is, you guys sound really nice and cooperative and everything, but the question I have is, if there is a problem with it, if somebody does have a problem, are you just voluntarily doing this? Or can the town board do something about it? Is what I really like to know. Is there any regulation? You're volunteering to be really nice and, you know, do things. But is it in writing? Can the town board protect us in the end if they have to? Or is it just a loose policy that we will stay back, we voluntarily stand back 500 feet away from the river. And we are gonna build a berm to stop, view from the thing. But 20 years from now, when frack is worth 5 times, 10 times what it is now, well, you're gonna tell Rod that we need to go back into that hill. We don't give a crap about your trees. We're going in there and getting it, Is the town board, is the regulations there to make sure you're doing what you're saying you're doing right now?
Is it spelled out in minute detail is what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Another question for the town board might be for them to publicly clarify enforcement afterwards and what power they have outside of bonding, if any. So does the extent of the town board's power end with their ability for bonding for damages, since this drive only goes onto a state highway that's outside the town board? So what power does that town board have to enforce any restrictions they put on a conditional use? Ask about enforcement. Another question might be completely outside of diesel, outside of sand. There's another concern that may want to talk about, the increase of diesel exhaust in the vicinity of your township.
Anybody else?
Here's Mark.
I got one last question here is, for town board, is how many of them would like a sand mine behind their back door? Seriously, how many of them would like it? And, I don't prohibit anybody from taking their farmland, you want to put a barn up or a parlor or do whatever you want on your own farm, it's fine. But when it's for agriculture use or any other benefit, but sand mining's a different story, And this is something, like I say, when it's out your back door, do it for 60 years out your back door. They just blast them for 6 months or like they did for Walmart or so. When they blast for Walmart down there, a short period of time, I know Benecker here had mentioned that at the last town meeting. It was nothing, a little roll, and that's it, from the blast. But he didn't, and it's not 60 years that he had to listen to it, and deal with it. But that's all I got. I gotta go.
I'm going to throw one thing out to the Plan Commission and the town board. There's a lot of people here tonight. You know who they are from your township more than I do. I believe it is law that you need to have a venue to comfortably and within fire code accommodate people that attend the meeting. So you might want to start looking at where you will have this venue on Wednesday night based on the size of the crowd, so that you're legal with fire code and legal with open meetings law.
I have one last question, and I think we should all go home. But my question is, can you put restrictions on the conditional use, saying that they can only, besides all kinds of other things, that they can only mine the sand there, and they cannot put another kind of, whatever it is that they do to finish the sand before they use it, that, a processing, would that be would that be a new conditional use? And I'm going home.
One more? I guess I don't need the mic for you guys. When do you plan on getting answers to these questions to us? Do you plan on answering the questions for us?
Tim, this isn't a board meeting, so
No,
this isn't really the place to answer questions. We're certainly, I've been taking notes, So,
All those questions should be taken into
I certainly agree, I certainly
Well,
agree.
they're gonna send them to them, they'll get them. I just wanna know if they're gonna answer them and when. Is that something you guys could have prepared for the Wednesday night meeting?
Sure.
All right, you've been doing this. I see in almost every country that you're around that the fear tactic is stuck in everybody's mind, okay? You go over to some place and they say, don't do this because this is gonna happen. You got ramifications on it. We still have this, what we're talking about, and I'm one of the board members, I'm Mike Steiner. Okay? I've lived here my whole life, right? So what I'm getting down to is the fact that, okay, we've got regulations that we can send to the Patterson boys. It's a back and forth thing. If they do not keep up with what we've got, we can shut them down. The DNR can shut them down. Anybody at any time, we can have a plant manager that goes there, inspects that thing. If they want to do it every week, they can go in there and see if the thing's being done. We're not out here, I surely don't care either way. I told anybody that I've talked to 6 people, max 6 people. My phone number's in the book, I'll give you my cell phone number. All right? I've got no problem with talking to people. But I don't like coming in when you got, if it was a little boy with a little darker skin with a white hat coming after. This guy's trying to make a living, okay? There's sometimes this pride and money gets into people's minds that somebody else should be making it, not them. You got farmers that are gonna finally have something, okay? They've been working this. Didn't happen on your land, I'm very sorry. You know, some things like this. I understand the fear of the silicosis, that kind of thing. I went to Vietnam, Agent Orange. Anybody in the age has been around that. I was around that. Luckily enough, I don't have it, right? The government said, here, Jack, you're gonna do it anyway, right? You got anything from this? Please be quiet. And the other thing I got to say is I agree with anybody that's here that's in my township. All right? But when I get it sent to us or anybody else that's coming from another township, I will listen to the people within the township prior to listening to somebody from another township. I've got nothing to gain from it. Like they said, January you can start bringing out your papers. At $25 a meeting to come and listen to this stuff, or go out to the board meeting to do this for the last 12 years. Hey, it ain't all roses. Anybody that's ever been into this, but understand where everybody comes from. Anybody that deals with it. I'm not against Rod. I know Rod real well. I know Mark finally to talk to him on the phone. Hey, I got nothing against their concerns. But as long as we're still in America, everybody's got a chance. We're going to try to answer all your questions. Okay? I'm not all for this. I told everybody that I'm not biased. I'll make a decision on what the rest of the people in what we finally have figured out. I'm not going into this thing, all right, I've already made up my mind. Right? Because if I did, and I hope in April, you vote me out. It's that easy. It ain't very hard to do. Right? That's all I wanted to say.
I have one point. Is there a conflict of interest with anyone on any of the boards and the landowners? Because if there is, then they should not be in the decision making.
Rod has no way he's in any of our meetings.
That's what I just wanted to make sure that everyone
that's in your mind right off the bat.
Right, that everyone was aware of
In
that.
any of the meetings that's got to do with any of this planning or anything, he has nothing to do with it. He's just another citizen.
Yeah, just so there's not a conflict.
Does any of the people on the board have any family working in Patterson?
Not me.
Sure.
Not me.
We know different.
No. Who's got it? Okay, not me. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't hear your whole story, but you said that you're only going to represent township people in Bridgeport. Well, I live in Wazeeka, so you can't represent.
You got a town board, right?
I sure do.
Okay, then those are the ones you have to go.
I'm not done speaking, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to come from Wazeeka through Bridgeport to come to Prairie. It affects me. If you want to be voted out in a couple of months, that's your decision. But until you're voted out, your job right now is to protect who you represent.
And yes, what you do in Bridgeport does affect me, because I have one way to Baskerville where there's a quarry, a silica mine, and if you put one in Bridgeport, that's my only way to get to Prairie. And I spend money in Bridgeport, and I've invested in this community, so I resent what you say, and that's all I have to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, want to remind you all, we're going to be cutting this off here, but December 13th is the Wisconsin State Riverway Board meeting, and by the way, part of this mine is within the lower Wisconsin State Riverway, and therefore every citizen in the state of Wisconsin has a right to be heard on the subject. Thank you.
There's lots of literature that the township, that the Bridgeport citizens put together if anybody wants it.
Okay, folks, don't forget to contact your board members and let them know your concerns. Let's go home.
Oh, yeah, and petition if they want to sign, or take them.